I like say the same thing every time. I got to come up with a better first thing to say when we go live.
Well, as you know, that's a deep subject.
Yeah, the well is a deep subject. Yes, it is. So we should have a pretty interesting show tonight. We're back on the Caddo kick, which means we're going to be discussing property rights some more.
Yeah, but did you know today is a special day?
A special day. No, I didn't realize it
It-
was special. Other than it's Thursday evening in Louisiana Watch, what's so
It's
special about it?
it's it's Insurrection Day. It's January the
Oh,
6th.
yeah, yeah. Some people use
How could
that insurrection term. I use riot, you know.
how the heck could you forget that? It's Insurrection Day. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, I have heard a little bit of it on the news, but, like I said, to me it was more of a riot. I mean, look, I understand there were a couple of police officers hurt, but they make it out like it was this big deal. The only armed people or person there was like that Secret Service agent that shot that Navy girl or whatever.
Oh, I don't even think he was Secret Service. I think he was freaking, Capitol Police or something.
Right.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean,
Anyway, but
I agree that they took the riot too far, but they were Viking guy was escorted in, so I don't know.
okay, hold up. You're getting into the
We're
show. Are you talking about the FBI? Yeah,
no.
well, you were saying they took it too far. Or were you talking about the FBI? Because,
Well, I think the rioters went a little far fetched, in my opinion. But
well,
of
are you talking
course,
about
on the other side, I think the FBI and everybody else went too far as well.
the government, or are you talking about the actual Trump supporters?
Actually, both. There was no way that was going to turn out well in the media. There was just no way.
Well, we're
What?
going to cover that. We're going to cover
Yeah, we'll
that,
talk.
and I got to tell you, Twitter was on fire today.
Right. I'm
I
not
don't know if
saying
you went
that
over there.
I'm not disagreeing, and then we'll actually get into the real show tonight, folks. I'm not saying that I disagree with their right to actually protest and riot if they want. I just think that there was no way that was going to end up turning out well in the mainstream media as we've seen for the last year.
Too many cameras. There's no way you could keep a lockdown on all that. But hey,
Right.
anyway, tonight, all right, so we're going to cover some more. Or look, there was a lot of Twitter drama, and it was actually entertaining. You probably
Really?
didn't go there, but
No, I didn't today.
some. I did. I caught some glimpses of things today, and I got to tell you, this whole day was a Charlie Foxtrot day. It was.
Okay.
It was a Charlie Foxtrot day. But there were some really cool things that took place on Twitter today.
Hmm.
And, you know, look, mass formation psychosis. I mean, we talked about it on Bossier Watch,
Right.
and we're going to touch on it again in this show because, my goodness, it is in rare form. Hey, Brandy Pugh. Hey,
Yeah.
Barry Butler. Tim Mueller.
Let's
Lisa
see.
Smith.
Yeah, we're up to about 30 people. Now, look, folks, because we're kind of dragging this on for a few minutes. We're going to run our intro here in a minute. But while we're running the intro, y'all make sure anybody you know in Caddo Parish, tag them, even if they're members of the Caddo Alliance for Freedom. We're going to have Mario Chavez, who's Caddo Commissioner for, I believe, District 10. Come on here in a little bit. He's going to actually call in. He's down at like City Hall in Shreveport right now, so he's going to actually call in, and we're going to discuss this whole property rights thing that's going on with the Caddo Commission and the UDC and the MPC and pick your other acronym. So it's going to be very interesting to get the other side of the coin this week. Last week we had the guys on from Caddo Alliance, Chris Crackman, and then Representative Danny McCormick. So again, we'll kind of have the other side of the coin this week. So. Tag your friends and let them know we need to get the viewer count up for everybody that's watching, and we'll go from there. All right,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, now this mass formation psychosis. So if you hadn't been following, all the mask mandates and the injections, your mandatory injections, all that, all that crap or whatever. Well, and if you may be a victim of mass formation psychosis. I don't know. Rex, are you a victim?
well, I don't think I am because I kind of know what it means and know what the
Did,
objectives are with the narratives that are pushed out.
did,
On both sides, honestly, because it's not
did,
limited to one side. But
Did you hear about Whoopi Goldberg? Whoopi Goldberg was like losing her mind, saying, "Look, I did everything I was supposed to do. I got all the injections. I've been wearing a mask,
Mm-hmm.
and I got COVID."
Oh, she's afflicted with COVID?
She, yeah, I gotta tell you, and I've come to the conclusion
Mm-hmm.
she is having a side effect of mass formation psychosis.
Yeah. With maybe withdrawals. She's coming off
Maybe.
of it now, maybe a little bit. Who knows? All right, well, let's go ahead and do our countdown. Folks, y'all know how this works. 2.5 minute countdown. We got about a 30-second little intro video and all that. And then we will be back live. Y'all grab some popcorn, grab you a stiff drink. We're going to be talking more about property rights and all sorts of things, and maybe more about Twitter, maybe more about Viking Guy and the insurrection riot. Who knows what we're going to talk about tonight. We will be right back in about 2.5 to 3 minutes. This live broadcast is brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. And we're back. Man, I was trying to gobble down that Big Mac real quick. Eating nutritious tonight.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, you're like a fireman. You know, at the fire station, you'd always have to just like, shotgun your meal, and I
Never
can't
know when
believe.
the bell's gonna go off, huh?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that heart and lung stuff is the biggest problems with firemen. When shotgunning those meals, you would think it'll be, stomach and digestive stuff that would be the problems, but that's not the case.
Yeah. All right. So we got quite a group watching. Hello again to Tim Euler, Brandy Pooh, Patricia Dyer tuning in from the Ivan Sticks, and our good friend Wade Lovelace. So we welcome all y'all. Again, remember, share this out, tag some friends. We've got some information for Caddo Parish that needs to get out there to the public.
Now, I was struck by one of the comments of one of the viewers. They said, do share for those of us with lifetime Twitter bans, Duke.
Do we know anybody that has a lifetime Twitter ban?
Apparently, we have a viewer that has a lifetime Twitter ban.
That's
I didn't know.
Impressive. And it's funny because all the stuff that I've posted all these years on Facebook, I mean, hyper political stuff, I'm yet to even be in Facebook jail.
I don't think I've been in Facebook jail or even Twitter jail for that matter. I feel like I've been throttled, yes, but never been in jail that I know of. I hadn't gotten any notification.
Yeah, I hadn't either. And I don't tweet that. I follow Twitter a little bit. I don't tweet that much or hadn't yet, which, by the way, we do have a Twitter account. We just don't really tweet yet. We also, I'm going to sign us up for that, what is it called? Getter social media.
Gutters, yeah.
Gutter.
You're going to put us in the gutter.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll have an account set up next day or two with that, and we're also on Rumble and some other platforms. We're just not broadcasting them to them yet. So if we do get put in Facebook jail permanently, then people can look for us elsewhere. All right.
Yeah. Cool. Kaylee Larkin, you're a high achiever, but yes, Rex, it has been a Charlie Foxtrot kind of day.
And if I remember correctly, we won't go into details, but your morning started kind of early and interesting.
An interesting early morning, long day, but, thankfully there was Twitter for entertainment, and my goodness, I thought I had fires going on. My goodness. I don't know if y'all were on Twitter today. Twitter was on fire. I mean, it was like nuts. So the day had not even got started, and they are already banning hashtags today.
They're banning hashtags?
Well, they done cut. There were some hashtags that were like shooting to the top, overtaking all hashtags. Mm-hmm. And one in particular, I don't know. I guess this was all pre-planned. I don't know, but it was like shooting to the top. But it was hashtag where is Ray Epps?
Where is Ray Epps? Now, all right, so I'm drawing a complete mind blank. Apparently, I need more Big Mac and fat-filled French fries or whatever. But who is Ray Epps?
Well, I mean, okay, it is Insurrection Day, and it's Insurrection Day, and right. The hashtag, where's Ray Epps? Mm-hmm. That was like shooting to the top, and Twitter couldn't have none of that. That did not bode well for their mass formation psychosis. So they had to cut that crap off. Well, they shut it down. And for all of y'all watching, and you're wondering, who the heck is Ray Epps? Or, who is John Galt?
Let's see. Okay, now I'm reading real quick from the Daily Mail. Former U.S. Marine Ray Epps, who is at the center of a conspiracy theory alleging the FBI secretly encouraged Trump.
Okay.
Now, that's according to the Daily Mail. That's, our British friends across the deal.
Conspiracy theory, but right. As you will see, I mean, I shared a link in our notes of Ray Epps, and so I don't know. I mean, the people watching, you can watch it and you can learn who Ray Epps is, and you can say whether it's conspiracy theory or not. I don't know. You be the judge yourself, and just look at the video.
Yeah, but apparently I'm not seeing the link, but y'all can Google it. We'll share it out here in the comments or whatever here in just a little bit.
I don't even see you in the notes.
Oh, I'm in the notes.
81 LW?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I don't even see you.
Oh, I'm definitely in there, and I don't see you. So we have a little bit of mass confusion going on here ourselves. Okay, well, we'll deal with that shortly, so let me see. Let me click around in here. So ad lib for just a minute, Duke. And let me find the notes and make sure I'm in the right notes.
Yeah, so Ray Epps, as a lot of you may or may not know, so everybody said that Trump set up that there was going to be this insurrection on January the 6th. And that's what all the mainstream media, that's what Twitter's going with, that's what CNN, all the talking heads, everybody. And the big thing is that, you know, there's been a lot of video that has come out that showed that there were these individuals that were promoting actually for and steering and trying to encourage people to go to the Capitol and storm the Capitol doors and do this and do that. In fact, there was individuals that were tearing barricades down and stuff. They're on video. But the ironic thing is none of those people have been arrested. None of those people have been brought up on charges. Some of those people were on the FBI's most wanted list and then mysteriously were taken off. And none of those people, but the one primary person that was identified was a guy by the name of Ray Epps. In fact, he lives in Arizona, is what they say. And there's some really great video of his work, and he didn't just work not one day, he worked a lot of days. They got multiple videos of him on multiple days. So today the hashtag was, where is Ray Epps? And
Interesting.
Play that video.
Okay, so and this is the correct one, right? And I believe our guest Mario just called in, so let me double check that and we'll play that video. Mario, can you hear us?
Absolutely, guys.
All right, give us just a second and we'll get to that. Let me roll this video. All right, here we go.
I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol.
Let's go!
So I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. Peacefully. Fed.
So this is supposed to be the mysterious Ray Epps?
That's Ray Epps. Now,
As soon as the president's done speaking, we go to the Capitol. The Capitol's this direction.
Wow.
now listen, that is 3 different videos. The first 2 you showed were on January the 5th.
Right.
That one is the day, January the 6th. And on January the 5th, you heard all of the Trump supporters that were around him, and he's saying, we need to go to the Capitol. And they all start chanting, Fed. This is the day before January 6th.
That's crazy. I got to go dig down that rabbit hole after the show. Wow.
So,
all right. Well, let's kind of pause that since Mario's on the line and he's like literally downtown Shreveport right now. So
all right, let's go with it.
No, I'm in.
Oh, you made it back to Southern Hills. Okay, good deal.
It looks like we lost him.
Okay, hold on. Let me unmute you. All right. Yeah. So sorry, Mario. I had you muted there for a second. So you made it back to Southern Hills, correct?
That's right. We had our commission meeting today. It was not in person. It was on Zoom. Of course, the pandemic, there's still some scare. So not everybody went down to Government Plaza. So we did which my office is still downtown for my business. So I was down there Zooming, but then we had our city councilman introduction to the neighborhood this evening at 6 p.m. So I wanted to make sure I came down here as well.
Oh, yeah. That's for the new city councilman that was appointed. Is that who it was?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess let's start off with some of the basic stuff and kind of get that out of the way. Of course, full disclosure, Mario and I have known each other for, 15, 20 years now. But a lot of our viewers may not know who you are and that sort of thing. So maybe just give us a real short, brief summary of your life and maybe business stuff, business dealings, since you've lived in Shreveport and that sort of thing.
I'll do it, Rex. I'll give the 1 minute elevator speech. And yes, the reason we've known each other so long is because of the business that I'm in. Rex is a great computer guy, so I don't know if he still moonlights on the side to fix computers, but I'll put a shameless plug in there for him. He's very good at it. That's how we met some 17 years ago. I own a point-of-sale company, and we build mobile apps and we build websites. I got into the digital market because I was in the Army National Guard, and I did data security for the National Guard, did GPS tracking systems, and set up communications. Lived in Southern Hills, and I've been here in Southern Hills since 1995. Moved here from California. My father worked at General Motors. So son of a blue-collar worker, moved here because General Motors shut down in California. Sadly, it shut down here in Shreveport as well. So I've seen what's happened to 2 plants closing. My father has since moved to Greenwood. The start of my political career, there was never an aspiration to be in politics. I was at a campaign fundraiser for a local sheriff, and I was doing all the donations via laptops because I didn't have any money at the time to donate to the sheriff, even though I believed in him. But what I had was time. I could donate my time. So I had all the laptops sitting there, and at the time I didn't give a flip about politics. I didn't even know who my city councilman was. I was at the time 35 and just trying to build a successful business. A lady had walked up and she asked whose laptops they were. I told her they were mine. She asked how much I was charging the sheriff. I told her I was doing it for free because no money but time. And then she got excited. She said, "Oh, that's awesome. What neighborhood do you live in?" And I told her the neighborhood, and she asked me what I thought about the neighborhood. And I told her I didn't like the neighborhood, that I was actually going to move to Greenwood, where my father lives, because crime had increased in the neighborhood. Property values had gone down. Litter was very, very bad. And then she said something very convicting. If you see something wrong, you need to do something about it. So I thought at the time, I asked the city marshal that walked up if I should do the job, and he said, "Absolutely, you'd be great at it." And I was thinking he would tell me don't do it because he was in politics already, and I see the grief that he would go through. But I said, "Okay, listen." And, of course, the lady was very excited at that point because now somebody else was telling me to do it too. I said, "Listen, give me your number. I'll call you back in a couple of days, and I'll let you know what I think about it." Well, I went home, and it actually started to resonate with me about what she said. If you see something wrong, you do something about it. Then I thought, well, she was an older lady. What are the people that can't do something about it? What are they stuck with? And I'm young. I had a business. I was in the military for 12 years. I stopped serving in the military, so I was now a civilian, and I had lacked that sense of purpose. Making money is not a purpose. I like being in business. I like helping people with point of sale systems, but at the end of the day, that's not really fulfilling like it was when I was a soldier. So I went to my wife and I asked her, "You think I should do what that lady asked me to do?" And I remember her response. She said, "I knew you were going to do it the minute she asked you. You can't say no to anybody." So that's when I said, well, I think I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see. And I'm thinking, I have a very colorful background, dropped out of high school, did everything the wrong way. And I think that's one reason why I've been able to learn everything is because I did the hard route on everything, which consequently is almost like the best life lesson. So I went ahead, ran for the seat, didn't think I would get it, but at least I would try. God had other plans. I got elected because the other guy got disqualified, which is kind of funny. They said it was going to cost X amount of dollars. I barely raised anything. Went 4 years, was named public servant of the year. Business has booming, named business owner of the year for the city. Went back through a re-election, got reelected in a district where, as a Republican, I'm in a district with only 20% Republican. So the fact that I got reelected tells you something very big in regards to how well I do. My biggest thing is, like I said, the litter up front, it drives me nuts. The litter drives me nuts because I guess the city that I'm from was very clean, and here it's not. We host quarterly cleanups, and one of the coolest things is every year before I got elected, we used to win the Great American Cleanup. And when you win, it's because the neighbors come together, they pick up trash, they go drop it off at the center, they weigh it in. Whoever's weight is the most wins. Well, ever since I got elected, because of the quarterly cleanups, when we would do our one cleanup a year for the American cleanup, we would always lose because we had no trash to clean up. So losing to me, it sounds like a win because that's my goal to do is clean up the trash. So here I am today. Rex, like I said, we're still great friends. I appreciate you having me on this show. And politics is something that it's ever changing. It's a big headache. It's truly public service. You are doing it because it's a duty. You're not going to get rich doing it. You're going to spend many hours and get a lot of choice words called at you, and typically it's for things that you can't even control or for people that you don't even know. I don't know President Biden. I don't know President Trump. I don't know our governor, but I get a lot of calls all the time about people in different offices, and I think a lot of the public, they're misinformed on who is responsible for what, and they think that we all know each other. So that in a nutshell is basically the elevator speech.
Oh, well, that's a couple of minute elevator speech, but a pretty good one. And of course, Duke, cut in anytime you want. But I got to ask you, Mario, and so right off of the bat, there have been some rumors going around. We've been asked about it. So I want to make sure you still actually live in district. I believe it's District 10, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Southern Hills. Oh, yeah, I do. I think, Rex, this all came from the premise of a few years back, we purchased a lake house.
Right.
I've had a boat for about 15 years, been a big boat advocate, lake person. And most people, obviously blue collar people, they don't have two houses. But like I said, we've been super successful with the business. Not only do we own the two houses, but we purchased the building that our business runs out of. We purchased 2 more commercial properties. So the intent, Rex, is to move to the lake house eventually, but we actually start this year on the demo. We have a huge, it's been really cool. It's been like a 2-year process where we hired an architect. We're going to take the roof off. Coming from Los Angeles, I've always wanted an ultra modern home. The houses built in the South do not look like that. The house that we bought, it was built over 50, 60 years ago. So it needs a lot of updates. So to say that we're living out there, it's going to take some things to upgrade it to what I want. What I want is an ultra modern Los Angeles style home. So when we start on it, I think we're actually starting the demo this month. It's going to take about 1.5 years. So in 2 years, yes, we will be living out there, and that'll be after my second term is over. I'm not running for my third term because I won't live here.
Well, yeah. So I wanted to be clear about that too. You don't plan to run again for commission. I don't even know if y'all have term limits.
We do. There's 3 terms. Each term is 4 years. I'm in the second year of third year of my second term. So next year will be the final year, which is it's almost perfect, Rex. It's almost like the house will be done exactly when it's time for us to move. And of course, I'll still have to sell the house that I'm in right now. But the way the housing market's going, I don't think it should be that hard. It's a great house. I love the neighborhood. But it's not on
Mario, on the cleanup thing, I think that's great. Tim Mueller, I think, is associated with a prayer walk in Shreveport in the coming days. I don't know if you're going to be a part of that, but I would recommend that you probably go and see that. But, moving on, I want to kind of talk about a little bit of in the last few days and kind of what has went on with, this MPC and the parish. And you've been a little bit of pushback on all of that. And I think y'all spent some time at the Republican Parish Executive Committee of Caddo. And did you get to speak? I heard some commissioners spoke, but I don't know if you got to speak or not.
I didn't, Duke. As a city commissioner, and I say that because my district is solely in the city. So from the jump 4 or 5 years ago when this whole thing started, and you can go back and read the minutes, I never liked the UDC to begin with, and you can read the minutes, so you can check my work on that. I was telling people back then, I don't think you should charge people for having their RVs parked in their yard or their boats. It's irrelevant, of course, because I wanted to park my stuff in my yard, but I live in the city, so that's a little bit different. But the 2 people that spoke was John Paul Young and Commissioner Atkins. And John Paul Young, he represents the Highland District. So again, he really didn't have a dog in the hunt, so to speak, but Commissioner Atkins does. He represents the Southern Trace Ellerby area. So of course his constituents do have an opinion.
All right. So we'll just go ahead and take off on that for a second. So I'm looking at a screenshot of some minutes. I think it was from a zoning and planning meeting that was maybe last March or April.
Yes.
And in the minutes, of course, this has been shared out by the Caddo Alliance, for Freedom group and all that. But anyway, in the minutes, it says, Mr. Chavez also pointed out that one of the unintended consequences of HB 697 is parish-wide planning. And then 2 paragraphs down, let's see, somebody introduced something, and it was moved by Mr. Hopkins, seconded by Mr. Chavez, to recommend to the full body an authorization for administration to begin negotiations with the proper parties to administer and enforce zoning regulation parish-wide. So,
and what? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some confusion going out there, and so kind of explain, what all that's about.
Absolutely. And here's what a lot of people are not understanding. If we actually introduced a parish-wide zoning, that parish-wide zoning could be no zoning whatsoever. So that's what I think the scare is. A lot of people, they're saying they want nothing, and that's of course all from North Caddo. And North Caddo, and we hear them the loudest. And of course, I want to take this time to say that Todd has been working for them the entire time. He's been getting a lot of flaming arrows, and Todd, he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't. He comes to the meetings. If you looked at it last week, when we had half of the commission out, Todd almost passed away because of COVID, but he was there with a backpack with his oxygen in his nose, going to the meeting trying to repeal the stuff to defend it, to fight for these people in North Caddo. So he's been doing this the entire time. When this whole thing first started, where it originated from was the MPC went out into the 5-mile buffer zone. And I think you guys have been educated on what the buffer zone is and how this all started, so I don't want to go back to that. Unless you haven't, Rex, you can let me know and I'll fill you in.
No, I pretty much got it. I've actually got a copy of the district map I'll display while you're talking so people will kind of understand it.
Perfect. Well, the MPC went out into the parish and started doing fines for people that had their RVs parked out there. And it was per the UDC that they were able to do that. Of course, they never asked us, should they do that? They just went out there and do that. And I think they did that with the intention to try to raise some fees and revenue generate, because one of the commissioners had made a comment that they were their budget was pretty big and they didn't really see a need for them because they really didn't do a lot of work out in the parish, because outside that 5-mile buffer, we don't have any zoning out there, and there's no zoning needed in regards to the UDC or the UP or the MPC doing anything out there. So they went out there, they put all the fines, and then of course a lot of people were mad. They called us, and that's what opened Pandora's box, and we figured out what was going on. When we tried to stop that and reverse the UDC, then we were told that we didn't have the authority to to tell the MPC that they couldn't, that was already done, and that the state statute had to be changed. Of course, Representative McCormick went down there through House Bill 697 and changed that. So now we're sitting in a situation where, let's retract about 6 months when Todd introduced what you're referring to. He was talking to the people up north. Go ahead.
Well, Mario, I got a question right there before you go too far along.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your going. So you said something. You said for the 5-mile buffer, is there not ordinances within the parish that covers that 5 miles as well? So if I was in that 5 miles, would I be looking at having both ordinances and, things from the city, maybe getting duplicate? Is that accurate or inaccurate?
You would fall under it was the Unified Development Code, but I think what you're thinking is who the enforcement arm is. That's where the confusion is, because the enforcement is the MPC, or it was before January the 1st of this year. Now there is no enforcement. So if you did something over there, there would be nobody to enforce it.
Okay, so let me just kind of, and if any of the Caddo Alliance for Freedom folks or anybody that lives, in the buffer zone are watching, y'all can kind of correct me if you want to in the comments, and we got tons of comments rolling in. We'll share some of them out here in a minute. But I think the basic concept here is the folks that are upset about this or up in arms about it look at it as, well, we don't want any appointed board to enforce this. I mean, they literally said at the meeting that they had at the Cowboy Church, I was watching some of that video, it was Legislative Assistant Jenny Smith said that they just want to be represented strictly by the Caddo commissioners. That's it. The people that they've elected.
And we've heard that, Rex. We've heard that the entire time. But what we first heard was, and this stems back from the MPC being the enforcement arm. If you look at the makeup of the MPC, the majority of those board members are urban dwellers, not rural citizens. I think maybe Lower Newburgh is the only one that lives out in the parish. So the dilemma was, all the complaints that we were getting was all these citations that we got were from a government bureaucracy, from people that live in the city and don't even know what it's like to live out in the country. So why are they telling us what we can't have our boat and our RV in the yard? Which I totally agree with them on that. I totally do. So from the get-go, the chief complaint that we heard and what we were trying to rectify was these people need representation from rural citizens. So what we came up with, and this wasn't just our idea, we sat down with people, is we want to make a board like the MPC that represents the people in the parish, that is solely made up of people in the parish. And that's how we came up with that idea. And of course, Todd's the one that passed that. And that came about simultaneously while my long range planning was coming out, because while that board was getting created, we had to hear how the people wanted the board makeup, what they wanted for zoning, so that when that board came about and when it was created, we had people in the parish that told us how that board wanted to function. So we simultaneously created the citizen subcommittee to give us the opinion of the people of the parish, while Commissioner Hopkins, knowing that this was coming to fruition January the 1st and that we got to get ahead of this because government works very slow, passed that resolution to create that 5-man parish board to strip the power of the urban dwellers and give it to the people in the parish so that they could represent themselves. And that makes total sense up until the point where just recently now we've heard a lot of complaints of people saying they don't want appointed boards. They only want elected boards. And so, yes, we hear them. I talked to the attorney today, and this is the conflict. And this isn't that I'm agreeing with him. This is just what our parish council has been saying, is that we have to have an appointed board, and not just us, but that every parish in Louisiana has an appointed board in regards to zoning. And the reason being is it has to be non-political. So the ideas have to flow to a board. It's a non-paid board. And then from there, they send them to the elected people. And those elected people, that is the elected board that I think the people are saying that they want, which they already have. It's the Caddo Parish Commission. And those are the people that either ratify or reject the recommendations from the appointed board. Now, we're looking into, can we do away with that and do it ourselves? My only worry, Rex, with this whole scenario, and again, I'm a city commissioner, so I really don't have a dog in the hunt, but I'm going to vote on what the majority of the people want, is if you look at now the makeup of the Caddo Parish Commission, they're going to get back to what they got before with the MPC and only having 1 or 2 rural people listening to them, as you can see today, because we tried to repeal the master plan today. I don't think it was going to pass. We ended up postponing it. But if you look at the makeup of our board, the commission board, the 12 of us, it's not heavier on the rural side. It's heavier on the urban side. And that's what worries me is I hear the people in the country and what they want, and I want exactly what they want. But if we end up where the board makeup is only the Caddo Parish Commission, they may end up back in the same scenario. But we're pushing through tomorrow. We're going to have a long range meeting. It's going to be 2 hours long. It's going to start at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I've directed the attorney to come in there and give us step by step. What does it look like if we have absolutely no zoning whatsoever? What does it look like if we have zoning that's zoned nothing? What does it look like if we retract the 5 mile and we have nothing left? So he's going to go play by play. Go ahead.
Well, that's a good question, because I think, on the January 4th Caddo PEC meeting, I think that was a question that was asked by somebody in the audience, about getting rid of, correct me if I'm wrong, you were there, but getting rid of the board or getting rid of the boards completely. Wasn't that a question that was there?
I think that was, and we don't have the board yet. There is no board yet.
Right.
And there was Todd's resolution to create the board. We were going to actually start appointing board members to that board. Now, obviously, we're halting that situation because we've heard the will of the people. And that's the good thing is there are a lot of people that are mad. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there on why they're mad, because it's not like no one has heard them from the get-go and done something that they didn't want to do. Todd and the other Republicans have been doing exactly what they wanted to do from the get-go. So they definitely have representation. I think.
Let me
go ahead.
Let me, not to interrupt you, but Chris Crackman is watching and he just put a comment up, so maybe you can clarify.
Oh,
this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Chris says tonight, as a body, they decided not to resolve to get Jeff Landry's opinion. So What got decided today or this evening?
That's we actually had a resolution. It was a resolution. Oh no, I know what he's talking about, and that's exactly what I'm referring to. Is and he's actually the person that was responsible for that not going to fruition is Chris's commissioner. Whenever you don't have something on the agenda, in order to bring it onto the agenda, you have to have unanimous consent at the beginning of the meeting. Right. One commissioner voted no to hear that agenda item to put it on the agenda. So we were not able to send that recommendation. But tell Mr. Crackman, fear not. If he looks at my agenda tomorrow, in my long-range planning, I have an item that says recommend a third party attorney. I forgot exactly how it's worded, but basically it gives us cover to where we can either hire a constitutional attorney to give us a recommendation on this, or get an AG's opinion. Which, on top of that too, I wouldn't worry about it because I got a call after the meeting that somebody already requested it from the Attorney General. They said, screw the resolution. I'm a commissioner. I'm asking him straight up. So yeah, I think we'll have an answer in the morning. But
I just want to say that, based on mine and of course Duke's and a lot of folks' experience with city attorneys and parish attorneys and all that, a lot of times, you got to make them actually cite the statutes because they'll spout stuff off and they don't even read the statutes half the time, much less read contracts or anything else. So if it were me, if you ask the attorney a recommendation, if it's the parish attorney or whoever it is, and he says, well, I don't think so. Okay, good. Back it up and show me the statutes or why you don't think it is, or let's get an opinion from the AG.
I think you guys are 100% correct. And the funnier thing is, even in today's meeting, if you'd watched it, our attorney, our counsel asked us to go outside and get a different attorney to give counsel on TIF districts. But why, if we're going to go outside and get an attorney's opinion on a TIF district, why won't we do something more important as this zoning case that we obviously have a lot of people that are concerned with this? And if you guys don't feel that you're adequate to get the legal representation that you have for the TIF, why are we not going to the Attorney General already to get the recommendation on what's up with this appointed board, non-appointed board, 5 mile buffer? Why haven't we done that yet?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, let me throw this out there as well, because I've thought about this and I saw it mentioned on one of the Facebook posts somewhere, but what about having this go directly to a vote of the people? So, let's say that there's got to be some board, there's some statute, some state statute or something that says there has to be some sort of, MPC type board or whatever. What about actually taking this to the ballot box and letting the folks vote on it? Has that been considered or discussed at all?
It's funny you should say that. That's exactly what Commissioner Hopkins has been recommended. And I think we may get a different answer than we're anticipating if we do that. And the reason I say that is we've heard the most from North Caddo, where there is no zoning and there's anticipated no zoning whatsoever, which Todd has already said. The only thing that's really affected right now is that 5 mile. That's this whole thing. Obviously, it seems a lot bigger, but we're currently referring to this 5 mile buffer. I don't anticipate parish-wide zoning, but the majority of the emails that we're getting and the calls that we're getting are people that are, let's say Greenwood, which it doesn't matter for Greenwood or Ida. None of those other incorporated cities are even in regards to this. They all fall under their own zoning. So we're only talking about the 5 mile buffer in regards to what we have to change. Now, they are right when they say if we did implement parish-wide zoning, and I think from that one letter that Dr. Wilson said, which we asked him to give us step 1, step 2, step 3. What are we dealing with? What are the options on the table? And of course, he gave us what the options on the table are, and I think that letter is what's causing a lot of people to grief, because they're taking that and they're thinking that that's what we're going to do, which it's not at all what we're going to do. So we can put that to bed. The things that I think the people are thinking where out there in rural Caddo that we're going to dictate like how big a light bulb can be, we're not doing that at all. I know you have some listeners on there that listened to the Zoom call today. We tried to hear Commissioner Hopkins' repeal of the Great Expectations master plan, the 2030 master plan, that ended up getting pushed to next month because I don't think the votes are there. And that's one thing that we have to consider too. There's some neighborhoods that we're not hearing from, like District 9, Commissioner Atkins' district, Commissioner Epperson's district. Those guys are in the parish as well, and they're more affected than the people in North Caddo with this current situation. So if they lose their zoning, you could have those $1 million homes with a trailer park next to it. Those people are worried. The Timberline neighborhood, the Southern Trace neighborhood. So we're kind of stuck in a situation where we need to make sure that we hear from everybody, not just the loudest people. The good thing about this is the loud people, we hear them loud and clear, and I know Todd is going to work for them 100%. So I'm not worried about them getting what they want. I have a feeling they're going to get everything that they want. But I think the people that are not being heard, that maybe don't know what's going on, like in those Timberline and Southern Trace neighborhoods, we obviously have to bring them into the conversation, because as a person that's representative of the entire parish, we have to consider everybody in South Caddo and in North Caddo.
All right. So, well, Duke, let me cut this in real quick. So, but we've got a comment from Jake Brown, who's actually watching via YouTube. So some of you that are on Facebook may not see this comment, but I'm going to put it up on the screen. Jake Brown says there is no longer a 5-mile buffer. He says that Danny's bill took away the 5-mile buffer, and I assume being the Caddo Commission or MPC or whatever the entity is going to be going forward, they will zone us all. So, Mario, you've been talking about it, but can you just summarize and maybe clarify the position of at least your position and those commissioners that you know about? Is this an effort to try to basically rule over everybody inside of Caddo Parish? Try to make a giant HOA, basically?
Right. So to answer Jake's question, or Mr. Brown, I specifically asked that question today to our legal representative and was told the 5-mile buffer zone is still in effect. So, okay.
And I've got a map of that pulled up on the screen for everybody watching. Y'all can see it. And oddly enough, of course, it looks like probably your house on Cross Lake, once you get moved into it in a few years, may actually be inside the buffer zone.
No, I'm not.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mario.
Go ahead, Duke. Okay.
Well, I was going to. Go ahead, Mario.
Okay. This is not regarding the lake house, regarding the 5-mile buffer. From what our legal counsel is telling us is Danny's bill did not, and of course, don't crucify me. This is the legal representation that we're getting, that the 5-mile buffer is not gone, that it's still there, that what his bill accomplished is that we now have the opportunity to break away from the MPC being the enforcement arm, and we can choose somebody else or we can choose nothing. And that's what we're being told. So the good thing is, it sounds like a lot of conflict of interest when it comes to, or conflict of legal opinions between different attorneys. I think this is all going to get put to bed when we get a formal AG opinion on what's actually going on and what legal right do we have to stand on. But the good thing is, in this whole situation, like I said, we are hearing loud and clear what the people north of this 5-mile buffer, what they want. And what our legal counsel told me today is we're sitting here at the point where we now have the availability, thanks to Danny McCormick's bill, to delete that 5-mile buffer, so to pull it all the way back or to push it all the way parish-wide. We now have that option. I highly doubt, my personal opinion, that any of the commissioners that have received the 7,000 emails that they've gotten think that going parish-wide zoning is a good idea. Unless they think going parish-wide with zoning, and that zoning is no zoning. If they think that that's a good scenario, and that's what the people want, but obviously we had our citizen subcommittee's recommendation. So I have a feeling it's probably going to be to maybe keep it and change some neighborhood zoning within that 5-mile buffer for those people like the Timberline subdivision and the Southern Trace. And of course, that's just my speculation, Rex and Duke. That's not what I've queried the board about, but it seems like from the conversations we had, the people in that area, they like their zoning. but we all know that people in North Caddo want to be left alone. So I highly doubt that taking the 5 mile buffer all the way to the parish line is the intention of anybody.
You know, Mario, I think as a whole, I think people overall are becoming more and more suspect of government as a whole, and we call it, I think it was even on Tuesday, Rex, we called it government creep. You know, that every time you turn around, whether it's this body or that body, we're seeing, you know, a little bit more of government creeping into our everyday lives and what we can and what we can't do. And I don't know, I've watched some of these videos and I get the feeling that a lot of folks are just wanting to, you know, have as little of government and regulation as they can possibly have until somebody goes and puts a truck stop in right next door to their house. And then they want government to do something about it. So it's kind of like, you know, they you know, want to have their cake and eat it too. But Rex, are you queued up on that video?
Yeah, so let me set this video up real quick, Mario. I know you can't see it, you're listening, but I don't know if I've mentioned this, I don't know, half dozen times on our show, that when my boys were younger, they were obsessed with the movie Tremors, which is this, you know, giant worms that burrow through the ground and eat people movie. The first one had Kevin Bacon in it and Reba McEntire, of all people. But anyway, so one of the main characters in the movie is a guy named Burt Gummer, and he's, you know, survivalist, has lots of guns and all that. And anyway, so in the third installment of the movie, the federal government sends these agents out to go take care of these giant worms that are eating people and burrowing through the ground. And of course, they goof it all up. So this is about a 20-second clip out of that movie, which is one of my all-time favorite quotes. You'll hear the government agent first asking Bert a question, and then you'll hear Bert's response. And I think this actually sums this whole situation up pretty well. So here we go.
Because we want to know what we should do.
You guys do what you do best. Find something simple and complicated.
It's good he expresses himself.
Okay. So I think that's kind of the feeling a lot of people have. You take something simple, which should be people-owned property, and you complicate it. I'm not saying you in particular, but Mario, can you give us a little bit of because I didn't ask you in the beginning and I meant to, can you give us a little bit of the history? Because I think these codes and all that have been in place for a while, and then there was like 2017 or whenever it was when all of a sudden they started enforcing these, and that's what got everybody stirred up.
Right, and that's the thing is, so first off, sadly, Shreveport's not growing, and this 5 mile buffer was anticipation of a city growing and needing codes to stay congruent, because if you have this house on this side of the street and it's got electrical like this, and all of a sudden the city starts growing and annexing in because more people and population, they want the codes to stay the same. Well, like I said, sadly, Shreveport has never grown, so it's not an issue here. If we were in a bigger city, in a bigger market, I don't even think we'd be at this conversation because it'd be city everywhere. But so now we're at the point where the 5 mile buffer, other than the neighborhoods, is not really needed anymore. Where it all started, and I'm with you guys. I don't want bigger government. The longer I've been here, the more I realize like they take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back to do one thing, and it drives me nuts. They don't think like the private business market. Where it all started, it was not sinister. I truly don't believe that it was sinister in the nature to where that they're trying to bring in the Green New Deal, so to speak. I don't think it's like that here. It could be mistaken, but I truly believe that it was a situation where the new director of the MPC had to raise funds because his budget was in question. And what they felt was, well, we can go out into the parish and these people will pay the fines, or at least that's what they thought. If you look, we quickly reacted to this because as soon as all the calls started flooding to us, like what the heck's going on, we passed legislation to stop the fines. Now, the fines weren't going to the MPC. The MPC is merely a pass-through in the situation of a fine. They're just the enforcement arm, but we still control the money. So whenever somebody would have paid the fine, had anybody had to pay the fine, not a single person had to pay the fine because we shut it down. So that money would have come to us. And of course, let's say we got $1 million in the fines. Then, of course, they came to us and with their handout saying we need $500,000 in our budget this following year, and they would try to showcase where they got us $1 million, so thus could they have half. I almost think that was truly the intention, was to try to fundraise. We shut it down. Nobody paid any fines. And since that situation, nothing else has transpired in regards to them going out there, because the director knew after that situation, every commissioner, especially the rural commissioners, were raising hell about leave those people in the parish alone. And they hear it loud and clear, even to the point where they shifted gears and started working to create a rural UDC. Of course, the UDC stands for the Unified Development Code. They knew that the people in the parish did not want to live under the rule of the same regulation and code that the people in the city have. So he worked on starting to draft a new code. Now we're here at the point where the House bill came through. I don't think there's going to be any type of code out there in the parish because of the loud demand of what the rural citizens want. And thankfully so, we have the commissioners listening. My only concern, and I've said this before, is if it does all retract back to just the commission board and the commission board only, then it is a lot of urban people on the commission. And I fear for my district too, and maybe the Highlands district, because those two districts may flip and become a little bit different in the nature of philosophically, where they may end up getting something worse. And I worry about that, Rex.
Yeah, it's always a concern because, the cure may be worse than the so-called disease. Again, like you said, because of the makeup of the commission. So very interesting. But
Mario,
I would
back to the ordinances though. But if your legal counsel acknowledged that, the 5 mile barrier wasn't under that anymore, wouldn't the ordinances that are already adopted by the parish, wouldn't that cover those 5 miles?
I don't know, Duke, because I think when we adopted from what we were told back then, when we adopted the UDC, it basically deleted I think it was chapter 57 or chapter 59 was the old code. Like it deleted that and replaced it with the new UDC. And from what we've been instructed, if we repealed that, then we had to replace it with something. And that was why Director Alan Clark was trying to create a rural UDC, so that when we got rid of the UDC, that we had something to replace it with, and that something looked more like what the rural citizens wanted. Now, of course, this is what we've been told. So I'm at the point now in this whole situation where I'm very thankful that we're going out to get an AG opinion, because I have a feeling that we've been given some misinformation.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Me neither. And I'm grateful, even though we've been getting a ton of flaming arrows, and for the most part, a lot of it is never going to happen. And there's a lot of people that are scared about property rights getting lost that I think that was never even brought up. There is a large enough mounted demand to where I think we're going to get the truth now, and we're going to get the proper legal representation, and it may be from the Attorney General, that this whole thing will get repaired. But this is the beauty of democracy, and the people and the people are speaking, and I love it. I really do.
Yeah, and I'd like to segue off of that a little bit. So, I've read a lot of the Facebook posts and listened to some of the videos, and much like we experience over here in Bossier Parish and other places, people talk about, we had no idea this was going to happen. The Caddo Commission didn't let us know. I would encourage everybody that if you don't attend the meetings, if you don't read the upcoming agendas, if you don't go back and read the minutes or watch the videos for those government bodies that actually video, and a lot of places do it live now. If you don't go back and watch those, then you can't really gripe about that, because Mario, I think you know as well as I do that y'all can't do this outside of a public meeting. Otherwise, you have a walking quorum, and people like me and Duke and and the other news agencies and things like that would be all over you guys. So, I'm sure you feel this way, but I would strongly encourage everybody who's in Caddo Parish to attend the Caddo Commission meetings. Of course, with COVID, sometimes that makes it a little makes it a little difficult as they change the rules a little bit statewide. But the main thing is attend the meetings. I mean, have y'all done any of this in like secret backdoor meetings where y'all go meet and have dinner somewhere and decide this?
Not at all, Rex. It's not allowed. It's actually against the law.
Right.
Like tomorrow.
And
we're going to have
Mario,
our meeting tomorrow, and I encourage everybody to come. It's going to be from 11 o'clock till probably 1 or 2 p.m. because we have a lot to go over.
Yeah, and Mario, we had a commenter. I think David Jones had posted something in there about you can't do that. That's a walking quorum. I think he was referring, you guys had a Zoom call. That was your commission meeting. It wasn't just a bunch of you guys getting together talking about the issue, right?
No, yeah, we are very particular about like being in group text, having phone calls. No, but we have a Zoom meeting. We even have to vote on being in a Zoom meeting to make it legal. So before every Zoom meeting that we do, which we do every open meetings law correctly, we have to post the Zoom meeting 24 hours before it happens. We have to put on what medium, like if we're going to show it on Facebook or YouTube, we have to tell ahead of time, 24 hours, what we're going to do. And then at the beginning of the meeting, we have to vote to certify that meeting via Zoom because we're not in person. Today, we actually were in Zoom, and we had to physically vote on an apparatus that sent us like a message on a screen of our phone to pick in the new officers because we couldn't even legally do a roll call vote on your officers. So no, we do everything by the book.
All right, and we got a couple of comments I want to throw out here real quick, and we'll kind of start wrapping this part of the show up. But I want to talk to you, and I know, Duke, you probably have some questions too, maybe about the future of Shreveport itself. But Barry Butler, who's a good friend of ours and was on the Bossier Republican Committee and former Bossier Parish police juror, says you may not be required to replace it, talking about the UDC codes, I guess, or the 5-mile buffer. And then Chris also said it's not required to be replaced. We have Chapter 30 of the Caddo Code of Ordinance already in place. So I want to make sure we got those comments out there that, depending on what the attorney says, you may not have to replace it.
That's a great point. And here's the, I guess, the proof of the pudding to what we're currently stuck in right now. There's a lady that's in that 5-mile buffer that's outside of the city of Shreveport that's in the parish that wanted to build a gazebo. And she was on the MPC agenda yesterday. They pulled her agenda item off of the agenda because they didn't know what to do. The parish attorney didn't know what to do. The MPC staff didn't know what to do. The MPC wanted to deny her the right to put up a gazebo to have a wedding, which I think is ridiculous in itself. But because it's zoned in a neighborhood, even though she owns all 6 lots in that neighborhood, and the guy across the street, who's the only other house, wrote her a letter of recommendation saying that he's totally cool with her having a gazebo there because the back of it faces the river, and he knows that this would be a great place to have some weddings. So they're literally stuck in the point right now, Rex, where they don't know what to do to give her the approval. They pulled it off of the agenda. So they're both scrambling, them both being the parish attorney and the MPC's attorney and staff, because they don't know the current situation of what we're in right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to figure that out from the AG.
It goes back to that movie quote earlier about taking something simple and just complicating it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I told them they just need to let her VRBO it because we don't have any VRBOs in the parish, and there's no rule against it. So if she made that a VRBO, then somebody could rent it, and if somebody rented my house as a VRBO and there was a gazebo in the back, you want to have a wedding, well, now you legally have a right to it because you paid me for the VRBO.
Interesting take on it. Okay, so let's transition a little bit, and we'll kind of put you on the spot just a little bit. So, there is a pretty big race and election coming up relatively soon in Shreveport, and so we're getting all these questions in the comments and all that about. As a matter of fact, we have one from our good friend Ryan Haygood, and he wants to know what your 5-point plan to revive Shreveport would be when you actually become mayor.
Well, first off, he's a great dentist, great guy, love him to death. 5 points, and would I be the mayor? I get a lot of questions. Do you want to be the mayor? And I think if you want to be the mayor, you're crazy. But I will say this, Rex. I want a great city just as much as you and Ryan do, regardless of the fact that you guys are in Bossier, because we had this major metroplex, and if Shreveport's better, Bossier's better too. I don't even think we need really like a 5-point plan. We could get away with a 3-point plan. Those 3 things being crime, cleanliness, and customer service. At the end of the day, you have a business, Ryan has a business, I have a business. Crime is the biggest thing. We have a huge issue with crime. That needs to be addressed, and I have many ideas on how to address that. Cleanliness, I don't even know who can't drive around the city of Shreveport and see the disarray of the city that looks like it's been abandoned. I had an old friend tell me, if you want to do a business deal with somebody, you go look at their front yard. If their front yard is immaculate, they're financially secure and they're doing good in their life. Because if it's not, they're falling apart. They may look good in the boardroom or at the restaurant, but if you go to their house and their front yard is in disarray, they don't have their stuff together. You can drive through our city and realize that we don't have our stuff together. So in the cleanliness, that goes with the litter, that goes with the trash pickup, that goes with the lights laying down everywhere, with the intersections crumbling, with the lack of property standards. I can go on and on with that. I can go on with the water, the quality of water, the infrastructure, the sewer. There's always raw sewer going into Cross Lake. Drives me nuts. So you got crime, cleanliness, and customer service. Just like in your business, if you have a good product and you have good service, people are going to come back. Our product as a city needs to be low crime, needs to be infrastructure that's nice, that's clean, that's new, that's workable. The crime, obviously, that's going to come too when you address it. But the customer service part, it's hard to get stuff done in Shreveport. I've opened up a business. I've purchased a building. It's tough down there. We need easier ways when you call the water company to get stuff done. We need accountability and trackability when you turn in a report like my street light is out. It got to the point, Rex, I called so many times to get my street lights fixed in front of my business. I had to go out there at night and wrap pink engineer tape around each light pole that was out, because on the 3rd time that they said that they went out there and the lights weren't out, I'm like, guys, are you coming out here during the day or are you coming out at night? So after I finally wrapped pink engineer tape around them, took pictures of them, and then sent them an email of the pink engineer tape with the lights out at night and a video of me driving down there with all the lights out, they finally got fixed. So 3-point plan. We don't even need a 5-point plan. A lot of people are going to try to run for public office and have these big, shiny ideas. We don't need ideas. We're to the point where we don't need a Ferrari in the driveway when our roof is caving in because we can't even structurally hold it up. We have to get back to the basics and just focus on the easy stuff. The easy stuff like cleaning up the city, getting City Hall in order, and getting the crime in order. That's all I want to focus on now. So we could take 2 more on a 5-point plan if other people want to throw one out there, but I'm good with 3 things.
Well, that sounds good. And, a lot of what you said actually could apply over here on the Bossier side of the river as well. But you're right. I spend a lot of time in Shreveport, too, and it's hard to deny the decayed look. It's the first impressions thing. It's like that letter or blog article that guy wrote after the Independence Bowl and all that. That struck a nerve with a lot of people. But, there was some truth to that article.
There's a Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish," and that's our dilemma. We don't have any vision. The city of Shreveport. If you pull somebody on the street and you say, "What's Shreveport known for? What's the identity? Where are we going?" Nobody knows. I mean, it's literally like a city that's just kind of hanging on, and everybody. It's like they're hopeless. But I'm not. I still love this city. This is still the city to where I moved here from California. Like I said, we've built a huge successful business here. Have 10 employees. One of the coolest days of my life was coming outside and looking at my employees' brand new Honda Accord, because it wasn't then about my Honda Accord in the parking lot. It was that I've created a business to create jobs to where this individual at 22 years old is buying a brand new Honda Accord. That's cool. That's vision. We need that for hope for the rest of the people in the city of Shreveport, and we can have it. We're poised for great growth. We're right in the middle of America. You can drive anywhere in Shreveport. let's say 5-6 hours. You're going to hit Texarkana. You're going to hit Dallas. You're going to hit Houston, Monroe. The major metroplex of what we can build and ship out here is great. We just have to utilize it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, it's funny you were mentioning the street lights and all that. On the Robert and Aaron show, I think that's one of Aaron's big beefs is, how many of the lights are out on 31, 32 and pretty much all throughout the city. So you're not the only one that notices that. It's, everybody's paying attention to that sort of thing on the Shreveport side.
I built a mobile app, Rex. If you download the Southern Hills mobile app, SHMA in the App Store, you can actually go on there and identify where a street map is. A street light and where it's out, and it submits it to SWEPCO. But we got some high-tech people at City Hall. I'm thinking we need to go a step further. We need to build a digital technology to where we have an overlay on top of the city of Shreveport where a citizen can identify on the map where the street light is out. It sends it to City Hall, and then they focus on fixing it. Somebody down there, not SWEPCO, because a lot of the problem is it may not be a SWEPCO light, maybe a city of Shreveport light. Who knows whose light it is? But that the light stays black on the map until the city of Shreveport fixes it or confirms that it's fixed and sends it back, and then the citizen that originated the ticket goes on there and confirms, because typically it's in their front yard. It's somewhere that they drive. You go the same route almost every day. You know what needs to be fixed. So instead of the city wasting the resources trying to go out there to identify what's broken, we have plenty of citizens that are going to crowdsource the issues and fill City Hall with information on what needs to be addressed. And that would be the first thing that we need to focus on is how do we clean up our city? How do we fix all this stuff?
Very true. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do and I appreciate you being on with us now, right at about an hour or so. So I'll tell you what, if you happen to decide to run for mayor, then, you're absolutely welcome to come back on the show. I mean, you're welcome to come back on anytime, and let's get more into some of these details. And even if you don't run for mayor, and you decide not to be a Caddo commissioner anymore, or anything like that, still come back on, because I think, even as an average citizen, trying to do things for the city is always a good thing.
I totally agree. We host quarterly cleanup still. And you guys said something a minute ago about getting engaged and watching. Until enough of us start turning our heads, kind of like what the Caddo Alliance for Freedom has been doing, and I thank them for that, because that's what it's going to take. We can't sit back and just let our city and our parish and our state just fall away without trying to fight for it. We have a great country. Trust me, I know. I've been to Iraq. This country is great, and it's worth fighting for.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and let you go. We're going to kind of discuss a few other things and then wrap it up for the evening. And again, appreciate your time and giving I guess it would be the Caddo Commission side of things, at least, through your view and all that.
Just my side. I don't speak for it, but dude, thanks for putting it on here, Rex. Have a good night, guys.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Good night.
All right, bye. Well, that was interesting.
Well, he seemed to be well versed. I think a lot of our commenters were just like the interview the night before on Bossier Watch, were taking a little bit of issue, but it's a tough spot being an elected position and making some of these decisions. It's a lot easier to be, I hate to say armchair quarterback, and I don't want to throw rocks at our viewers, but until you're in the hot seat, a lot of times you don't really know.
Yeah, that's true, and that's kind of why we wanted to give, it's not like we're trying to, be necessarily fair and balanced per se. I mean, it's like we say, we definitely put our 2 cents in on everything and how we feel about things, but because you and I are over on the Bossier side, and while we pay attention to Shreveport and Caddo Parish, we're not right in the middle and the thick of it. It's always a good idea to have it from both sides if possible. And, and Mario's willing to come on and take the hot seat. And so we appreciate everybody's comments so far. And keep commenting. I also want to throw a shout out to Miss Bonnie Farr. She's watching tonight. I think that's the first time I've seen her watch the show. So we're glad to have you on. She's been a long-time friend of mine. And,
no,
the whole Shreveport thing, I don't know what it's going to take to fix Shreveport. Maybe a 3-point plan will work. Maybe it's 5-point. Maybe it's a 10-point. Maybe it's too far gone. I don't know. But Shreveport's got some issues, much like Bossier Parish, but I would argue probably more.
Yeah, I would say. So, hey, back to national politics before we wrap this up on Insurrection Day. Okay.
Okay.
So,
swinging back to national stuff.
Yeah, your favorite guy, I don't know if you realize it or not, but they caught a picture of him today.
My favorite guy. Really?
Yeah. About 2 lines down under your cursor, cut 2. They caught a picture of your favorite guy today in D.C. I don't know if all of y'all realize this, but on Insurrection Day, there were people taking pictures. I mean, just all over the place up there, and
Yeah, let me get
guy.
this. Let me get this queued up real quick. This is hilarious. Here we go. Give me a second. Let me push this out live. So, yeah, I guess this would be the picture shot of the day. That is, I call him Viking guy. And again,
wait a minute. That's Ted Cruz.
That is Ted Cruz. And, Ted with the whole beard mustache thing, he's, it's kind of funny because if you watch Ted Cruz, as his beard grew out and his mustache and all that, his personality, and I would argue the way he approaches things, has also evolved too. It's like he got a bigger shot of testosterone, maybe.
I mean, look, Dick Cheney shows up to the Capitol today and Ted Cruz loses his mind. He goes liberal. Next thing you know, you got Viking guy. Well, they got pictures of him trying to run Ted Cruz down.
Well, let me just say this again about the whole, January the 6th riot, insurrection. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Look, here's the thing, folks. If our security around the Capitol was lax enough, and again, maybe they had some kind of stand-down order. I don't know. I wasn't there. But if it's lax enough to let a guy with face paint on, red and white face paint, it's not like you could miss him, with, Viking horns, who calls himself a shaman, or did, at least before all this and before he got jail time, to breach the Capitol and, go down in the chambers and stand there, we got bigger problems than whether it was an orchestrated insurrection or just, a Capitol riot gone awry. I mean, come on, folks.
He stood at the lectern with the speaker's gavel. For
Yes.
goodness sakes.
The cops escort. I mean, there's video. You can't deny this. There's video. The cops, they were walking in there, and they're all looking around in awe of the Capitol before they went and took selfies.
I'm closing with this. # where's Ray Epps?
Well, my hashtag is, if that was an insurrection, it was the worst insurrection ever, although very entertaining.
# where is Ray Epps?
Where is Ray Epps? Fed. All right. Anything else you want to discuss this evening?
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Enough about Shreveport politics, Caddo property rights, mayor's race. I agree.
This Charlie Foxtrot day is done. Good night.
Right. Good night, everybody. We appreciate y'all watching. We will see y'all again Tuesday night for an edition of Bossier Watch, which of course broadcasts over all the channels, just like Louisiana Watch is. Y'all make sure and share this out. Tag your friends. Share it out if you know Caddo folks that are worried about this property rights situation. That way they can hear this side of it as well. And, of course, we also encourage you to join the Caddo Alliance for Freedom. They seem to be a pretty good group, and they're sharing out a lot of information. We're out of here.